So Lisa is one of our newest mentors.
Welcome to the team, Lisa.
And I'm Rick. I've been a mobility mentor for 3 years, and I'm a job help volunteer there at Brisben for the last 9 years.
Hi, Courtney, just Courtney.
I'm Greg. I'm a newbie, also just mentoring my first person, so.
My name is Jessica Weber and I am not a mentor or a mentee, but I work here at Virginia Career Works where the meeting is being posted and I help consult on different job placement, workforce topics.
Lisa, can you introduce yourself to us?
I'm Lisa. I'm decided to do this because I have a sister that has had issues with housing for the last 8 years. And in my early 20s, I went back to college at 30 to get my family out of poverty. So I know how to do this because I've done it myself.
Well, I was thrilled to hear you had so much fun last time that I was asked to come back. So, that's always a good thing. I think you guys had requested several topics, but I can cover the first two today. One is how to have that conversation with someone who either has a job and needs something better, or someone who doesn't have a job and you need to figure out what they want to do. So I'm curious, have any of you had that conversation? Is anyone working to have that with their mentor right now? Mentee?
And my mentee, he has a job, but it's kind of his love, but it doesn't really pay the bills, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
studies show on average, a person who has a financially sustainable job really only loves like 20% of the job. That's just a fact you can throw at some folks who are like, I don't want to do what I love. You can say, well, not everyone has to do everything they love on their job. Sometimes there's a little bit of elbow grease or hard work. So I actually have a website. I'm wondering the best way to do this. You know, what I have here is a free tool. It's available on the internet. My Skills, My Future. This is free. Anyone can use it. What I will say is those folks who you have go through the full complement of it when they generate like career assessments or reports, try to do it where they have access to a printer. Because it's a free website generated by the government, it doesn't let you save personal profiles on here. It's just a free tool. So if they do something on here and they want to save it, like a career assessment, they need to print it live.
So sometimes when you hit print, there's an option to do PDF or
Yes.
something like, is that, so the memory stick would be sufficient for some
Yes.
of that? Okay.
Absolutely. So it does auto-generate PDFs for the assessment tools. So that's another way you can consider on paper. So the website is very, very simple. If you have someone who's already doing a job, and maybe you're trying to make sure they're doing the one that pays them the best in their community. I'll give the example, a lot of people who have just a basic driver's license can get driving jobs here. But the range for what those pay can be $12 an hour. Up to like Amazon, that's like $20. So there's a big difference in wages. So they can just do a basic search for that. So there's a little button down here on the bottom that says, what's my next move? And when I tend to talk to people, do you tend to find they either have 1 or 3 different ways you talk about work? One might be the money, just flat out, I need money to pay X, Y, and Z bill. The other one might be the really passionate folks who are like, I really want to do this, and that's what I want to spend most of my time on. And then you have those folks who are like, I have no idea. They've either not had a good work experience, or they haven't had a lot of work history, or they've had a lot of barriers and a lot of challenges, and so they haven't had the full complement of opportunities offered them. I used to work with individuals with many varieties of disabilities, and they would always tell me work experiences about where they've shopped. And since they didn't have a lot of money, there weren't a whole lot of stores they could tell me they wanted to work at. So that's very limiting in the number of options they can think of when they try to pick a job. So you have really 3 different ways to have that conversation. It's the person who already knew what they want to do. The other one is, I kind of know, like, I want to go into healthcare. They hear that healthcare is big and a need here. Or I want to get a CDL trucking license. Which I will tell you, if anyone wants to do that right now, the market's getting over flooded. And so they're being asked to have like 3 years of driving experience. So you need to talk them down to say, let's get a job, get you some driving experience without your CDL first. The other ones in our area, there's a lot of commercial, there's a lot of cleaning, because we have a lot of federal buildings and large warehouses. There's a lot of warehouse work. And manufacturing, we're starting to see come back. IT is great as well. I will tell you, it's very hard if you have a person with background to get into IT. We had a false push a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, all those folks have credentials that won't apply to them. The other thing is it takes time to learn. The last one is where many of your conversations might be, which is in the purple, which is those folks who are like, I really have no idea. I haven't had a great experience. I don't know where to invest my time. Do those components of a conversation for finding a job resonate with you guys? Are those things you've had to talk with folks out, challenges?
I have one that loves his job, but he's a dog trainer. He trains hunting dogs and he loves it, but it's not a lot.
So on a side note, because that's not unusual, especially for some of the folks you work with that have maybe had prolonged isolation or they've developed kind of their own specialty skills. That's where actually you find most of your entrepreneurs. So like K9 is a dog training franchise. Someone who has talent and demonstrated history can kind of become a part of that model and then build their own business around it and make money. We have Riot in our community that offers some free entrepreneurship training. So if you're struggling to have that conversation, but a person is like, I have an idea, you do not have to be the one to either approve or disprove that idea. You can send them to this free training and it gives them the tools to think it out and figure out for themselves, this is real. All right, so kind of taking those creative folks and those I don't know folks, this is the system. And I will say this is very, very simple. It is designed for folks who are not PhD students to take. So if you're working with someone with lower literacy, the average in our county is, can they read at a third grade level? This meets those parameters. So it's not super hard. It is self-driven. So there's a next button to get you through the different actions. And it does tell you what to do on each part of the screen. So if you forget everything today, you know, you have a free website with click and play instructions built into it. This does not save. I will say that repeatedly. So when you work with someone, make sure you save it to a thumb drive or print it as you go. I'm just gonna run through this really simply. It is based on a rating. So a person does not have to say, yes, I like something or no, I don't like something. What it is what's their preference. It is a career assessment tool based on what a person likes and dislikes. They can have a range. These are really basic questions that hopefully a lot of your folks have experienced. Like, do you like to hang pictures? They are probably going to ask you when you go through the assessment, what do these questions mean? Tell them to not think about the job, think about the actual action, not the questions asked, because they always want to try to think ahead. A lot of time. And there you go. That just tells you, don't think about the training and all the stuff. Just think about the actual act of, do you want to sit and do or stand and do whatever they're asking?
Is when they're doing this assessment, is this an assessment that's based off of PXT or some of the other higher level ones where you're looking at, I have a tedious job, I'm gonna be doing a routine task. Some people love it, other people are bored out of their mind and they would walk off. I don't know.
This is a very
Elementary version of that.
elementary or boiled down version to that. Career Scope is another one that a lot of people still will pay for. This is kind of the equivalent, but it doesn't cost $50 first. It's free. You do not need to be an expert to do this with someone. It takes about an hour. Most folks just need to support and motivation to sit through this and then figure out what it means to them afterwards. So here's what it looks like, and I'm honestly gonna pick some dots here. It is 60 questions. Honestly, when I have someone sit and do this for 60 questions, I tell them go with your gut. So they're not over analyzing it. It goes pretty fast. It's maybe 20 minutes if they're thinking about it. There are a lot of different assessments out there. I will say 60 questions is actually less than some of the more standardized ones, but you do need to think about your client. Either you prep them and be like, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna do this for an hour, or you build in some breaks for those who need it. So I'm just gonna randomly select some things on the screen real quick so we can move forward and look at results. The whole idea is to help broaden the conversation for those folks who can't tell you what they want to do. I will tell you, so if a person wants to go into a funded program for like higher education, they do normally have to go through an assessment like this. This could actually potentially be submitted for that assessment for them to qualify. So that's something to keep in mind to help motivate people to get through this. Is a lot of programs like our federal funded program that gives someone $4 grand to take a class. they have to do this.
So if we have someone at the center that we refer to you, will you have that record of status?
Yes, if you call us and you say, hey, I have a mentor or a mentee and I'd like them to have this opportunity to complete this with you guys, that's a great tool if you need that person to have a third.
Well, but if I do it,
Yeah.
for someone,
Mhm.
you know, and, you know, and I'd print it off, but if they eventually come to you,
Mhm.
will you already have that
No,
available?
I will not, because it
Okay.
only lives within the lifetime they do it in the website. So if they do it with us and we print it, it is something we could save and upload to our database here. But if they do it with you guys, I won't have access to it unless you bring a copy with.
Okay.
Or send it in. Once you go through the interest inventory, it kind of double checks your answers. So if I had a lot of neutral choices, it would say, hey, did you really think about everything you wanted? And then it starts generating results. These are ways to have a conversation with someone about their workplace preferences. Someone who's realistic tends to be folks who like manual labor. They like very black and white. They are not going to want to be a manager or an admin person where they have to kind of figure things out on their own. Those are the folks who will usually like to be outside. Those are the folks who want jobs where they have kind of alone time, like I say the nighttime stalker at the store. They don't have all the customers coming up and asking them 20 questions. Investigative, those are the folks who like to ask questions. Those are the folks who like to problem solve. Those are the folks who tend to like management, customer service pieces. The chart is really colorful and great here, but what's more helpful is that print feature. So the client can type in their name and this spits out like a PDF. If you were. You do not have to be an expert if you're going through this with one of the clients you work with. It gives you a little summary of what it is and then how that really translates for a person. You don't so much have to read this word from word, but this is how to drive a conversation with someone. If you're looking at this from realistic and you're like, hey, can you tell me about your experiences? Do you like working outside? What does that look like for you? The other one down here, the artistic folks. What do you like to create? Is it breeding animals and training them, or is it art? Is it just having, their own atmosphere that they like to personalize? Do they need a decorating? And then some of the other pieces that are really valuable is that social piece. Are those folks who are comfortable working in an office like mine that saw 200 people this week? Or do they want something a little bit more isolated, that call center where all they do is talk to someone over the phone? And then there's folks who have real leadership potential that haven't necessarily had that opportunity. So management training programs and some other spots.
So I guess the next thing would be what occupation?
Yes,
That's that,
yes.
right?
So that's where we get into the job zones. This report will generate, and it tells you a little about what those are. It'll generate 5 different levels. One tends to be jobs. If this report really resonates with folks, you go through the profile before, they'll start saying things in line with it. They'll tell you, yeah, I love outdoor work, and their score is like 25 or higher. If they're down in the 1 and their report said something else, then their test results weren't that good. Usually that means someone didn't understand the questions or like, but little preparedness is usually when you start talking to people, those are jobs they've already had or they've tried. Some job prep, usually they've had some sort of high school background, education classes up to about 9th grade, and they usually have had those. The ones that are higher tend to build on one another, but they require some sort of higher education. Associates, a certificate. Number 5 is usually a PhD.
So you select one of those, based upon that. Number.
You can actually get all the results.
Oh,
And if you were to go in and play this on your own, you can print the key page, so you know all the meaning of the levels of the job for anyone you work with before you take this. Just to
Where do you save it? I don't see the save feature.
when you go to print, you can print it to a PDF.
So a quick question, if I'm meeting with somebody at the Brisben Center, I know here you mentioned that there are thumb drives available for people. Does the Brisben Center have anything like that? Would the individuals need their own thumb drive? And it's not a stubby question.
no, and what I do is I encourage, like when we're working resumes, most of the they don't have iPhones, it's all Android. So, and they have Gmail accounts.
Okay.
And so I encourage them to download it to a Google Drive. Or, so it's virtual. And So
If you need
Thank
drum
you for that.
dives, let me know, because I probably can get you a German dog.
Well, yeah, we need. cameras.
All right, wish list is started. So you can select a zone, it's still gonna print all of them for your person. Just a little bit about how we're looking at this person. This person is very flexible. They have a lot of different career options they could get into. But they're definitely someone, their highest score up here is someone who likes that manual labor piece, likes black and white. So when I push the next button on here, I can print. So job one, all the first jobs here are probably jobs that I may have had. I might have been a tree cutter. I might have been a cook. When you start talking with someone, if those zones are really matching, you have a really strong assessment. And then you start finding better conversation about, okay, so you've tried those jobs. Let's talk about jobs that you could do that, you know, maybe you can make some more money and build on the things you will notice a pattern when you go through the different job series is they build on one. So if someone started tree trimming, they could go into like the national parks around here and build more certifications. And then you can build on that. There's a lot of STEM, science, contracting, consulting businesses that'll take those folks with those experiences, pay them a little more, and still have them be a technician. All the jobs you can usually research in here in more detail, wages, how much they make. But this is a great printout to actually say, okay, we went from things you like, things you don't like, to careers that are really helpful to look at. Are there any questions about
So
this?
you have like a puzzle piece
No.
and you've got like a little yellow dot next to it.
Yes, good question. So, they are usually recommendations by the system if there's a puzzle piece based on your personality profile, that once you're in that setting, you would have some type of fulfillment, whether it's the structure of the word pace, whether it's the work you're doing, whether it's a combination of those. The yellow is something you'll see in a lot of career platforms. For our area, it'll tell you what's in demand. And so if it's got that yellow, it's projected to be in demand now and over the next 5 to 10 years. I tell folks it's always good not just to get someone a job, but get them a job that's gonna last them a while. So,
Technology,
yes.
AI and all that taken.
Yes. So those are what those symbols indicate.
you.
All right, and again, each time you click on one of those reports, you can print that to a PDF or save it. That is a career assessment. It's very similar to some of the higher end ones that you pay for. This one's free. It's a tool that I encourage you to use if you're having that conversation with someone and struggling to kind of get their foot in the other direction. This gives them the choice to really look at a range of jobs and choose, and also give you the chance to look at what interests them and then what jobs are available out there that kind of match that.
And the website is,
My skills, my future, and if you save the brochure that you have, there's a little QR code on the inside, you just scan it, it takes you right to the website. Okay, so you've had the conversation, you've got someone interested in a career, you do not want to lose them. If you Google, and I do this a lot with clients because job seeking is tough, it's like a job in itself, they get tired doing it. I will Google in front of them with them the average amount of applications before you get a job offer, and it's like 84 right now, I think,
Oh,
give
really?
or take. It's a lot.
Wow.
So usually when I have someone on their like 10th one, for whatever reason, we hit a wall. So we use that as a standard. Did you put in 84? Most folks, by the time we're talking to them, they haven't put in 80. So we use, and you guys have access to this. We have a free
yeah.
education system. So if someone decides, I like a career and want to go into trucking, or I want to go into healthcare, you can start putting them on an educational track for free right now while they're doing job search. This is really helpful if their resume is kind of blank or they need to strengthen some basic skills. Metrics learning, it's free to all your residents. The baseline they have to do anything in here is 6 months. And I'll let you know next year or next month when I see it, how long we're extending that. This is really set up like pre-college prep. They're not familiar with this webpage. It's a great elementary step because it doesn't cost them anything to enroll. They can make as many goofs in here as they want. It's not. They're,
Question for you. I'm one of those people that, like, if I'm gonna tell somebody about something, I test drive it first so
Yep.
that I can relate to the user experience. Is it costing you any money, and is there any issue with me going in and playing
Nope.
around with that website?
feel free to enroll. So let's talk about, you did the assessment, they have a career in mind. There is a career tab on here, and if you go to this for the first time with someone, it asks them to rate themselves on 24 questions. I'm sorry, there's another rating in here. There's no test. But it's to figure out, yeah, it's to figure out, like, it'll ask them, do you know what Microsoft Excel is? And they say, minimal, I'm an expert. It's to help gauge their learning level. Once they finish that assessment, there is a pathway page that'll show. This industry is tied to our area. If you're someone who's not gotten a job and needs to start at the entry level, there's a pathway for them. I'm gonna stick with our truck driver here. There's warehouse in our area in demand, truck driving, transportation, security, supply chain, logistics. I mean, there's all realistic careers in our community. What it does after they did that little assessment of 24 questions is it provides a pie. Green, they probably know. Blue, they're skilled in. Red is screaming at you, encourage them to take the courses tied to that. Because if they either apply for a job or they need to flesh out their resume a little more, it shows they have some areas that they can improve for free and walk away with some certificates that they can show an employer. I have a valid interest in this job. I know you need to invest in me. This is how I'm investing in myself. It is designed just like college. It'll tell you the max amount of courses you can do, roughly how many hours, and they can set their own goal. So if they're gonna do this 5 days a week and they wanna bang it out in 2 months, or if they wanna stretch this out over a little bit, they can. The courses are really helpful for your clients in terms of how they're tiered. The purple stuff is high school review. So if you have someone who's been out for a while, they need to know how to write an email, spell well on their text. If they're gonna text their supervisor, maybe do a quick review of math. They're going in the cash register. It's that, like, the dark purple, I tell them, is a little bit more the fun stuff, so that's applying your knowledge. Just hit some of these here. So here's an example of purple. This is very basic grammar, workplace skills for a truck driver, listening, problem solving, critical thinking. Critical thinking pieces here. So working with the team, as truck drivers tend to have teams. And then the blue piece, there we go. Very specific. Commercial vehicle, defensive driving. So this is like a free class. When a person goes for their CDL, they usually have to take a course. This is free. If someone's been out of school for a while, they can go in here and it's like practice driving for.
So it basically helped them once they got into like the Germana CDL program.
Or they could even take this to kind of feel comfortable and confident that going into Germana, they would have a pretty good chance of.
Oh, that's a great idea. They apply at Germana, they get a message from these guys and it can almost be free for them. I do push CDL for the older guys coming up for construction.
I'm working with one young lady who's working on getting her GED. And she has everything except I believe it's the math portion of it. Is there enough stuff in here for her to cover the math portion of her GED?
If she needs to practice studying,
Yeah.
So if you have someone who just needs a random class, there's a catalog, there's 7,000 courses on here. My first tip to you is to make sure you pick the language preference because it'll help eliminate a lot of the extras. And then I'm gonna try math, but I might have to get more specific. Here, business math, calculus, advanced math, intro to math, algebra, all those things. So I was asked, how do you sign up for a class? Every individual has a plan they can create in here to save the classes they're signing up for. It's like your own personal roster. So on a pathway or in the catalog, you will see in blue the option to add a plan. If you click on that, it's gonna open up a little window. And it usually gives you a summary, or it'll jump right into the helpline. So this is your portable classroom essentially. This is a really great tool for folks who missed out, and a lot of people did during the pandemic, online learning. There's an instructor, they come online, it's not live, it's recorded, so they can play it as many times as they need to. They'll say a few things, and then they usually ask you 3 questions to make sure you're understanding the content of what's being shared with you. And it's like class, they can print out materials for themselves, and there's usually a test at the end, just to make sure they've met a competency level. But that is one credential they're earning in here for free, all kind of wrapped up.
So is there any linkage to these classes getting Germana credit? Or-
Yes, in some cases,
Well, I saw the Java, so they have a software accreditation, software
Yes.
engineering accreditation.
so some of this actually, don't tell Joanna I said this, circumvents some of the classes. Because it's
Oh.
self-driven and free. But then we talked to Jermaine about doing the testing part, or going to
Oh, okay.
Brisben Center to do that,
So they can take the test, it's like a placement.
taking the test.
At a much reduced rate than the tuition?
Yes, because tuition so think of all the study materials in here for you that are about $4,000, and the test is really, it ranges 200 to 1,000, sometimes more depending on what test it's out to you. I promised 45 minutes, but I will take questions. And I will say, if you guys go in and do this on your own, you'll see in bright yellow, there's a free tutorial hour. So I only got into a little piece of this, but you can go on and someone will show you how to navigate the website. And so that's what I started off with today, is how to have the conversation about work and a tool to help you do that. And then once you have that career destination in mind, how to get someone on the path right away. Because sometimes that job search piece is a little. I'll see you guys in the future. I was asked to come back at some point and go through the Cliff tool. So we'll talk about how to take a career and break it down in the conversation about money.
You guys know what the Cliff tool is?
No,
You wanna see
Cliff
the?
notes, but not
Yes.
Cliff tool.
So,
I remember Cliff's notes.
the Cliff tool is actually designed through a grant from the government. What it does is it allows you to help a person sit down and put in some career avenues and generate how much they'll make, but then also calculate how much they spend, rent, childcare,
Oh.
insurance, transportation, and help them kind of develop a plan, because it'll show how they stay on the job, they should be making more money, and how different costs will change.
And doesn't there an option to show you how to get off of benefits too?
Yes.
Successfully, that's
They-
a big one.
They have been adding benefits, and I have a new training in January. I think they've added social security and disability. So, I will tell you, if you have someone that's in IT, this has about 100 IT certificates that are nationally recognized in here. Amazon is coming to town. Most of Amazon's certificates, training material is in here, so it was nice of them to share. So there's lots of options. My office is the first one in the hallway, and my card, I can give it to you up front if you have questions. But these are free tools you guys can use. You can also refer someone to us for an appointment, and we can help cover some of the stuff with them.